In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a hazy summer effect stack. So we're going to need to create a blend of several different effects to get this look that we want. So we're going to use layer visibility to make sure that only the summer season or the summer layer is visible. And then we are going to use real skies, skylight, color correction, lens flare, a handful of other different effects all blended together to get this kind of hot, hazy summer day on campus. That's what we're looking for. So enough talking about it. Let's hop into Lumion and get started. All right, so first things first, in Lumion, let's hop over into our photo studio and take a look at our first camera here that we have set up. You know, I think I really want to work with camera number 2. That's kind of the main shot, the shot that I like the most. All right, so now what we need to do though is start layering on the effects. And what I've come to realize with real skies is that that is the first effect that I add. So I'm going to go to effects and we're going to go to weather and climate, and then we're going to add the real skies effect. This is kind of like the foundation, the lighting, right? You know, we want to make sure that we have the skies and the lighting correct. And so first thing I would do is click on this thumbnail here and choose a real sky that works well with summer. Now, I think that we're probably going to use cloudy, or cloudy will be in the fall, overcast will be in the winter, and I think the summer, we're looking for like that really hot summer day. And I think it's cool to have a little bit of clouds in the sky, so let's go with that one. All right, and then I'm gonna go and mess with the heading. And so what you can do is, you know, slide the heading around until you get the look you want. But keep in mind that you can always override the real skies. So, you know, the easiest way to just make this happen is to adjust your real sky until you get the skies that you want, or the shadows that you want. Let's start by getting the shadows we want. All right, so like if I just kind of get there, you know, I want to see some shadows on the building, and I want that tree to kind of cast a nice shadow. I'm going to keep moving my heading around, and you know, I think that we kind of lucked out on that one. So I don't think that we need to add the sun to override our real skies. You know, you can also flip the sky, you know, and get a different look. But really what I'm getting at is that we want to get our shadows in place and see if the sky makes sense. But another way to do this would be to get your sky to look the way you want. So like I could kind of really adjust my heading here, and maybe I want to get those clouds, like, I don't know, something like that maybe is a little more attractive to me if I see some clouds up in the sky there. And honestly, the shadows are still kind of nice, but check this out. If I go back here and add another effect, I can add the sun effect, all right? And if I add the sun effect, if I add that sun effect on top of my real skies effect, I can go in here and now I can adjust my heading and override the sun that comes with my real skies, all right? So this way you can force the shadows. You know, it might not line up with the sun that's in the real sky background, but that's okay. I mean, you can, you know, get the look you want. But for this particular rendering, I'm pretty happy about the real skies and where we ended up. So I'm going to leave it alone and just stick with my shadows where they're at now. Okay, so whenever you add real skies, I think it's always a good idea. Now I'm back on light and shadow. I would always add skylight, all right? And this is just my way of doing it, you know? So like maybe approach it the way I do, and then, you know, riff on it, make your own process. Definitely very much encouraged to take this and kind of run with it. So I keep the skylight and planar reflections, I keep these settings off. Render quality normal is just fine, and I don't mess with the brightness or the saturation. And also you might have noticed that in my real skies, I didn't mess with the brightness or overall brightness. It seems like the default settings for real skies and skylight is pretty spot on, and I just kind of leave them alone. Okay, so let's just keep marching through our effects. All right, so we'll go back to effects. So we talked about the sun. I always add the shadow effect. All right, let's click that. And there's a couple settings on the shadows. So you can choose whether your shadows are going to be interior or exterior. And you can see, I think exterior, maybe they get a little bit more like kind of contrasty or dark. I always jack up the real shadow you can see that that kind of pulls the shadows like up on the ceiling and in the corners, but it's not real clear on an exterior render, and that's okay. But we're gonna do exterior, so we set our slider here, exterior. Omni shadow, I always turn all the way up. I leave my shadow type as normal, and then absolutely critical is that we get our soft shadows. Check this out. That makes our soft shadows. And then also we can get our fine detail shadows. Check out the grass. And when I turn on our fine detail shadows, you get all those little shadows happening all over the place. So really gives your image a lot of pop. Cool. Okay, so that's the shadow effect. And let's hop back here to our effects. Reflection. This one's critical. All right, so we'll go to our reflection effect. And reflections, speed ray should always be turned on. That's like a no-brainer. Speed ray reflections give you, let's see if we can see something here. We don't really have a lot going on with that would be good for speed ray, I don't think. You can see a little bit of an increase in quality of some of these reflections, but really we don't have a lot of probably on the cars we'll get some action from speed ray. Yeah, you can see a little bit right here. It's just you're getting an increased quality of reflection without a reflection plane. That's what we're seeing because this surface does have some reflectivity. But let's talk about the more important shadows, or I'm sorry, more important reflections, like here in this glass. So see how that just doesn't really, let's see, as I'm moving, I can see the reflections kind of jumping. If I turn those off, yeah, they're still jumping. All right, let's add a reflection plane. See how they're kind of blocky? Those reflections are not exactly real. And when I look out this way, maybe I would expect to see this tree. So if I hit edit and we can add reflection planes, I'll click on the plus sign. All right, so we'll click on the plus sign and then I'm gonna hover on this surface and click. Now, anything on that plane that has a reflective property, or any material on that plane that has a reflective property, will now get a very clean reflection. So see, now we're getting that really crisp reflection in the sky. All right. So what you want to do is go in and add these reflections, and I'm going to add one to the asphalt, and then let's kind of scoot over here, and I might as well, even though this does not show up in my rendering right now, I might just drop a reflection plane on here because I know that we are going to use that. And this is a pretty lightweight scene in general. And so I'm not super concerned about having one extra reflection plane. All right, so we're all good there. Say okay. And now there's our view. Let's see, there we go. All right, so what else do we need? And this is how I do it, pretty much every time. For each project, I do typically build a fresh effect stack, because I do it the relatively same way every time, but for different project types, you're going after a different mood or a different setting. And, whether it's interior, exterior, or night, you have different needs. So I found it's easy enough just to kind of fire these off, but then I do save that effect stack and load it along the way for other views. And we'll show you that in a moment. All right, so on here we're good. We've got don't need hyperlight or global illumination for this exterior. We're going to keep it nice and lightweight. I go to camera. All right, now here on camera, I do like to add 2-point perspective. That kind of shores up my takes away some of that lens distortion, straightens up those vertical lines. That one looks good. And let's go back here. And I'm also going to add, we're going to wait to the very end to add exposure. I am going to add lens flare. All right, and lens flare, what I like about lens flare is that I can turn up the master brightness and the bloom amount, and you can kind of get this haze. So if I go really extreme, you can see that's pretty hazy. And that's what I'm going for, is that hazy summer day, where you're oh God, why am I taking summer classes? That's the effect. That's the feeling I want to invoke here. All right, so yeah, just a little bit of additional master brightness and a bit of additional bloom, and I think we're in good shape. All right, so I'll go back to my effects list. And of course, if you have spotlights and other lights going on, you could mess with some of these other effects. But for this particular rendering, really just master brightness and bloom amount. So I like lens flare better than the bloom effect. That's better in my opinion. All right, and then like I said, exposure we're going to save for later. Handheld camera, I like this to get a little bit more of a style out of this. So I'm going to double click on my focal length and back this up and call it 35. That brings me right back where I was. And what I like to use on handheld camera is the film age. So if I turn that way up, you know, of course, a lot of these sliders, you don't want to turn them all the way up. You just want a little bit of a dash of it. All right. But you can see that it's kind of like a vignette. You know, it's adding that like, you know, kind of faded out to black around the edge. So if I just add a very little bit of that, I think it gives a nicer vignette. I don't know. It's just kind of a different look. And if you do enough of it, you'll see like these little lines happening. That may or may not show up on our recording here. But film age, just a little bit goes a long way, I think. All right. I'll go back to my effect stack, and I'm not going to mess with depth of field. You know, I like the look, but I got to tell you, we get enough pushback from our clients that say, you know, why is it blurry? We just kind of leave it out. You know, I like it, but it depends on what you're going for, what the client needs, and if you want the safe play, you can leave depth of field out of it. All right, so. Yeah, we're in good shape on this page. Let's see, what else do we have? Scene and animation, we've got layer visibility. All right, so now this is going to be an important one. So let's add layer visibility. You can see that like all of my layers are turned on. So I only want my summer. Okay, so there's summer. We'll turn off spring, winter, and we turned off fall. And I also want to have all seasons on and imports. So we are in good shape. Just summer is showing. Pretty cool. All right, so that's how we're going to toggle between all the seasons. You know, we've got all the trees kind of broken out on those different layers. You know, when I turn off summer and turn on fall, you know, they all look the same right now, but you know, we are going to modify those and make them more appropriate for the seasons. But for this particular image and this particular effect stack, we just want to make sure that we've got our summer layer turned on, and that's it. That's the only season we need on. All right, we're good there. Okay, and let's see. You know, now would be a good time. We've got this time warp effect, and I think what we'll do is drop in some birds. Okay, and we're going to drop those birds on the seasonal appropriate layer. All right, so let's go back to build mode first. All right, and add some birds. So I'll go to build mode, and I might just kind of hover up like this and go to place. All right, and then I want to make sure that I am on my summer layer. So that's number 5. And you can see that, you know, number 5 is the one that's kind of left behind, is filled in with black. So when I hover on these guys, you can see layer 5, summer, is active. So I'm going to go back to my people and animals collection. Again, I'm on place mode. And we're going to go over to birds, and I'll go with pigeon flying. You could choose really, yeah, both of these are good. We'll go with pigeon flying too. All right, so now I'm on place, single placement, and I can click to place that bird. All right, and so, you know, maybe I'll just kind of I can hold control, and I can add a couple of these birds over there, maybe a couple over here. I'll do something like that. Okay, and I'll do one more burst in there. So we got a lot of birds, and check it out. They're all kind of like, you know, flapping around down here near the ground. All right, so I'm going to go to my select tool, and I am going to deselect all, and then let's see, where's my bird? Here it is, pigeon flying. I'm going to go to my advanced options, and I'm going to select all identical objects. All right, so those are all the little nodes that represent those pigeons flying, and I'm going to move them up. You know, we want our birds flying up in the sky, right? So we can do that, and let's just see where that gets us, if that's overkill or not. It's a lot of birds. I don't know if it's the most attractive look, but when we have a handful of birds, you know, we're going to get them in our shot. Okay, so So hopefully you can see that we do have some birds in here. All right, so you can see them up there in the sky. So that's cool, that's what I'm going for. But now what I really want is to get those birds positioned in a specific way. And that brings me back to time warp. All right, so I'm gonna select time warp, and then you can see there's an offset for people and animals. So can you see those birds now kind of moving around up there? So when you add that time warp, you can kind of get them to be in a different position. And so, I don't know, that's pretty cool. We've got like, a different blend of birds, or different positioning of birds. I think we're in good shape. It's a subtle effect, bird up there, a couple up here. Subtle effect that adds a bit to any image. Cool. But that's how time warp works. It's pretty cool. All right. What other effects do we need? So, and we're going to do that a couple times as far as like adding seasonal objects. All right. Okay, so we are good on the rest of these. Weather and climate, we are good. We did real skies. We're not going to do anything with precipitation right now, and nothing with autumn colors yet. We'll get there. Got a couple tricks to show you on there. Now, sketch. This outlines effect. I think this is super cool. All right, check this out. I always do this. I turn the transparency all the way up and then bring my outline density down, cut it in half. And I think that is just such a cool, subtle effect to have those outlines kind of laid on top of your rendering. It does just give it a little bit of a softer feel, or more artistic or dreamy or something. But I like it. If you don't like it, turn it off. But I think it's a cool look. We've been sending these images out a lot and getting some good responses on them. All right. Next, let's go add another effect, and we've done our outlines. We are good on this page, and we're nearing the end. On to colors. All right. Now, I've gotten pushback on noise as well. I personally like it, so I'm going to add it, and I'm going to bring my intensity way down, just to the point where I can barely see the noise. All right. That's way too much. I'm going to bring it down to a point where it's like barely on, and I think that's a good look. All right, and then I'll go to add an effect, and let's add color correction. So now color correction, you can kind of mess with, of course you can mess with any of them. The sliders that I tend to mess with the most would be saturation, contrast, and temperature. So I'm going to bring the temperature up just a little bit. All right, so a little bit goes a long way. I want it to be that like hazy, hot summer day. And, as far as contrast goes, maybe a little bit. I don't know if you want to go with saturation or not. Desaturating is not going to give the look I want, but, maybe a little saturation could help. It's kind of cool. So we'll go with that. I think we could also leave it right in the middle too, but I think that we're in good shape there. So temperature, just a little bit warmer. We've got just a little bit of contrast, a little bit of saturation, and I think we're good there. So let me look. That brings us to the end of these guys. See, this vignette is just so strong. I like the handheld camera vignette a little bit better. And we're all good. Now, if I get to a point where I look at the image and it's just a little bit too dark, which this image is not too dark, but that's where I would throw in exposure at the end. And I think that we're going to have a good example of that for winter. All right, let's render this. Why not? I'll hit render. Of course, you can render either the current shot or the photo set. We'll go with current shot. Kick this out at 1920 by 1080. I'll throw this on my desktop temp folder, call it image 1, and I always just do a test render at 1920 by 1080. And you want to get a good look at like, how is this thing going to come out as the final product? Lumion does an excellent job of giving us a real-time view of what we're going to get. Okay, so we're going to let this one render out, and I always render out at 1920 by 1080 just to get a good look at like how this image is actually going to look. And I think it's actually coming out real sharp. Nailed it on the first try. So yeah, just do a test render. While Lumion does do an excellent job at real-time rendering and showing us what we're going to get, puts a little more polish when you actually render it. So it's always good to just test it out. Let's see what we got. All right, I'll open that folder and then take a look at that image. There it is. Looks cool to me. This is the beauty of Lumion, is I can get something out the door so fast that is extremely desirable, beautiful. I mean, you can see the grass is perfect. I love that. The lines, the haziness, the summer feel, the kind of harsh summer sun. I think that we have accomplished that hazy summer. And, we've hidden our horizon lines. We've got some nice decorative trees that are faded out. I think this is a pretty nice image. I dig it. All right, so here's what we do now. Close that, close this, and say okay. So what we need to do now is we need to take these settings and apply them to our other cameras. All right, so we have a view here and we have a view here. So you can do that in two different ways. We can go back to our camera with the effect stack that's all set up, and we can click on this menu and we can go to File and choose Save Effects. All right, I'm gonna save this to my desktop temp and I'm gonna call it BD_Hazy Summer. I'll save that and I'm gonna overwrite mine, okay? So now I've saved out this entire effect stack. The whole thing is now ready to be loaded onto any other camera. So I'll hop over here, click on this, and then go to my menu again and go to File and choose Load Effects, all right? We can load up the Hazy Summer effect like this. Wow, absolutely amazing. So now at this point, the effects, they were all set up for that one camera. So, maybe I do want to go in here and say, like, let's go to page 2, Real Skies, and adjust my heading. So you might get like a different look. Like, gosh, those shadows are super cool, I think. The way they're kind of crashing down on the street. I like it. So, something like that is probably cool. Or if we go the other way, yeah, I kind of liked it like this. I think that's going to work well. So, yeah. So you just want to slide those around, get the look you want. Remember, if you add the sun effect, you can override these sun settings and leave your sky in place. But that looks wonderful. All right, so here's the other way that you can copy settings from one camera to the other. So we can go and hit our menu again. So we'll click on our menu up here, go Menu, and go to Edit, and choose Copy Effects, like that. And then I'm going to go over here to my third photo, and see there's no effects, right? And then I can go to Menu, Edit, and then Paste Effects. And then just like that, look at that. We've got everything all set up. Now on this one, definitely we need our real sky to kind of move the heading around. And let's see, which way do we want those shadows going? I really like those shadows on the lawn, and also in that other one too. It was really sharp, the way that those kind of crash in. So yeah, I think that's pretty darn cool. I like that a lot. That looks good. And then, maybe I would go back to my time warp. Now, here's a tip for you. If I go back to my effect stack and then I have to go back to like page 1, and then I got to like look around here and find where did I put time warp? So that's how I would get back to time warp. The other way you can get to this time warp effect is you can go back to add effect. And then, I know where it is. I know it's on my scene and animation. And then I just click here. It takes me right into my time warp. And now I can kind of move this around and get those birds doing whatever it is I want them to be doing. So pretty cool. All right, so then let's see. Maybe I go back here, and just to be real finicky on this, even though we're doing a quick tutorial demo, I might go back to my real skies and see if I can get this just a little bit better. It's just a little bit like blown out there, a little bright. So actually something like that's pretty nice too. But or the other option would be override some of these, but nah, I'm pretty good with that. That's let's just get our shadows doing that kind of cast on the wall there, and I think we're in good shape. Maybe one other tweak on this particular image would be to go to your shadows So I go into my shadow settings here, and the brightness of the shadows, you can pull those way up and just make them not so dark. The shadows are really dark. So maybe I would just bring the brightness of my shadows up a bit. But I'm pretty satisfied with that one. I think it looks great. So now we've got photo 1, 2, and 3, and we're in good shape. So at this point, what I would do is I would just kick out render the photos. I would do the entire photo set, and I'll just call them like summer. I'll say 01 space dash space summer, and then we'll go to 02 space dash space summer, tab, and then backspace and do 03 summer. Cool. All right, so next I'm going to render these out at 3840 by 2160. I'm going to save them to my desktop temp. I'm going to make a new folder. Let's just do a new folder called exports, just so I can kind of keep these separate. And I'll give these a date, 190512 underscore, and then it's going to insert a file name for me. That took just about 10 minutes to render out 3 images at 4K resolution. And let's go take a look on my desktop temp folder. Here's my exports, and here they are. Here's 190512 summer 1. Check that out. I like it. It really came out sharp. I like the way the shadows are laying for a very little amount of work and a very little amount of time. I think we've really nailed it. This is a pretty nice image. This one came out real nice too. I might look at getting the striping in the grass to maybe be a little more realistic with that devil strip tree lawn there. But I don't know. Those are little things that you pick up after the fact. But in general, the lighting, the shadows, the composition, the entourage looks really good. Got a couple of repeating people over here that I would probably go and delete a few of them out of there. But really psyched about that image too. And this one I think looks very, very nice as well. So very happy about those. So anyways, I think we're in good shape. All right, so I think we've done a great job of accomplishing that like hazy summer effect. So you can see that with like the right blend of effects, when they all come together and the right sliders and just a little bit here and a little bit there, you can really accomplish some pretty cool, moody and seasonal effects in Lumion. So up next, we're gonna take a look at a crisp fall day. So going from summer school to first day of fall semester. So stick with me. I'll see you in the next tutorial.